It's completely normal to be fearful of exercise if you've got bad lower back pain or sciatica, but is this the biggest mistake of all? Today, we'll explain why you must do exercise if you've got any hope of your back getting better, make you think about how you're really already doing it, give you a new way to look at exercise, and give you the step-by-step actions you need to take to get out of pain once and for all. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Michael Fatika, the lead osteopath and spine specialist here at Back in Shape, and we help people all over the UK and around the world fix their back pain from home and get back in shape for the long term. And what better place to start today's video than the definition of exercise? According to the Oxford Dictionary, exercise is an activity requiring physical effort that is carried out to improve health and fitness. The first part of this definition is very important. It is an activity requiring physical effort. And you see it, anyone with lower back pain or sciatica, getting out of bed is an activity, getting on the toilet is an activity, going downstairs is an activity. You get the idea. It's not just things that are quote unquote exercises. Life is an activity. And when you're in a lot of pain with a vulnerable lower back, everything requires physical effort. The only thing that makes an activity an exercise, if we adhere to this particular definition, is the purpose behind that activity. So we realize very quickly that we are doing numerous activities every day. Many of them, if not most of them, unless they're purposeful, are not contributing to our improved health and fitness and well-being. And unfortunately, for all too many of us, those daily activities are the very ones that are done in ways that constantly do the opposite of exercise. They actually make our health and well-being worse because they're constantly flaring up our back pain. We're doing this and then our sciatica sets in. We're just going round in circles with no real long-term benefit. So whether it's a formalized prescribed activity from a specialist or whether it's something as simple as loading the dishwasher, all of these things need to be considered as exercises, and therefore we should not be shying away from a formalized activity that has a real purpose to improve us. And on the other hand, we need to recognize that there are many activities that are prescribed, things such as knee hugs, which we talk about in other videos, things such as child's pose, sit-ups. These are activities that do not move us towards health and fitness in an improved way. They actually move away from that when it comes to back pain and injuries. So having addressed that elephant in the room, hopefully you're already thinking, okay, wait a second, maybe I'm actually doing a lot of these activities every day, and maybe I should actually start to think about some activities that are going to improve my health and well-being, specifically with regards to my lower back pain or sciatica. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of this video helping you to do. So for the rest of this video, we're going to think about activities that improve your health and well-being, specifically in that back pain and sciatica parameter. And we've got two different categories of these. The first is going to be more about providing relief so that you get this temporary improvement in health and well-being in the lower back. And the second is actually much more powerful. That's making long-term changes through literally transforming your body. And the thing is, you can do all of these exercises in a haphazard way, not focusing, not paying attention, and therefore it's just another activity. It is the rigor with which you approach these with real intention and focus that makes it an exercise, that makes it something that's actually going to achieve that second part of the definition of improving your health and well-being. Everything's physical effort if we do it right or if we do it wrong. Whether we get a benefit out of it is really down to you. Ideally, this first tranche of activities are going to be things you're going to do daily. You're going to do it maybe a couple of times a day, and they're there to provide relief for the strain in your lower back. That's at the root cause of your back pain, your hip pain, or your sciatica. Commonly, these are disc injuries, disc herniations, bulges, etc., around about that L4-5 or L5-S1 level of the lumbar spine. These exercises are actually going to help with the recovery and the healing process. So they do play a role in achieving that objective of the definition of exercise, but they do it in a bit more of a slow, temporary way. And we need to make sure that although they do provide that relief on a moment-to-moment basis, they are married up with the strategies that we'll talk about in the second part of this video. We're going to have a couple of examples popping up on the screen as we're going through all of these, but also remember, we're going to have tutorial videos and resources linked down in the description. So after you've watched this video, you can always check any of those out to watch in much more detail the specific activity that you're going to be doing so you can get it right. Relief activity number one is going to be the lumbar towel decompression. And this is where we're taking a rolled up towel and placing it underneath our lumbar spine and lying over it so that it can support the natural, normal, healthy curve in our lower back. We spend too much time every day sitting down, squashing that curve and eliminating the natural lordosis. This puts the muscles and ligaments on stretch and it compresses our discs, making the source of our lower back pain worse, especially when it's in the L4-5 to L5-S1 region of the lumbar spine, which is the majority. You're going to aim to do this towel stretch from anywhere from 20 seconds to 5 minutes. And when you finish, you're going to roll off nice and slowly to the side, gather your thoughts, wait for a moment or two, and then get up without rounding the lower back as best you can. Number 2 is going to be the hip mobility stretches. These are a classic hamstring, hip flexor, and glute stretch, which you've probably done before, but the way you've done them has made the problem worse. And here are the 3 mistakes people make. Number 1, when they do a hamstring stretch, they round the lower back forwards, which involves the lower back, and it shouldn't. A hamstring stretch should only act on the hip joint and arguably the knee joint too. It should not involve the lumbar spine. You do it correctly, it's going to benefit. Mistake number 2 is going to be with the hip flexor stretch, and that's where you arch your lower back instead of holding your spine nice and steady, involving the lower back in hip extension, which is again a mistake because it runs the risk of jarring particularly the L5-S1 segment and giving you instant pain or sciatica down the leg. Mistake number 3 comes with the glute stretch, where people will classically torsion their spine, twist their leg over the other one, and even hug a little bit as well to get a bit of flexion or forward bending into the spine as well. These are 2 movements we must avoid because again, they run the risk of either pinching the nerve in the case of the twisting or aggravating the disc in the case of the hugging towards the knee. They're unnecessary, they're less accurate, and if you do the stretch properly, you're going to get better results. Ultimately, with all 3 of these stretches, doing them right is the big thing. And if you do them without involving your lower back and just focus to the hip joint, you're going to find that they are an activity that improves your health and fitness. And they can be a little bit strenuous to do from time to time as you get yourself into the right position, but they should be really nice and relieving when done properly. The final activity here is about inflammation management. Much of the pain that you're going to experience after the initial injury is going to be down to inflammation building up in a confined space of the lumbar spine. We have these small holes where the nerves leave and they can fill up with excess fluid pretty quickly. Just think about how much your ankle can swell up when you have even a minor strain. That happening in this confined environment can really fill it up quickly, pressuring the nerves, giving you that back pain, stiffness, aching in the buttock, or sciatica down the leg. By using icing, we can manage that excess inflammation by placing the ice directly over our lumbar spine and managing it a little bit more effectively, done for periods of 3 to 5 minutes at a time. If you want to take it to the next level, you can also do contrast bathing instead of icing. This is where we alternate hot and cold for 3 to 5 minutes of each for a couple of times through, always finishing on the cold. This second part of the video is going to talk about the activities we can do for long-term results. And you should start this at the same time, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to break this section into 2 parts. The first is how we do the activities, and the second is the actual activities themselves, specific recommendations. And we've got full tutorial videos linked down below for all of these. Going back to that definition, it's about how we do an activity that actually dictates whether we're going to achieve that goal of being exercised or not, whether it's going to improve our health and well-being or not, whether it's going to improve the status quo in our lower back or not. And this is going to give you a strategy to safely do the activities in a way that actually makes them exercises by the definition we're working with today. So with any activity, level 1 is about becoming technically proficient. That is about finding the variation of any given activity and doing it in a way that can allow you to do it safely with proper choreography, proper technique, proper form at a desired range of motion that you can do competently. If we take the example of a dead bug exercise, you might need to do a half repetition, not going all the way out with the leg, to find that right technical level for your current levels of competence. You need to spend a little bit of time going through the activities we talk about at the end of this video to find the right level of technical skill that you can do on all of these. Level 2 is about finding the right intensity, and it kind of blends with level 1. For something like a dead bug, you've probably already found that. You can only go this far. But for something like a squat, you might have the range, but you need to figure out how much resistance can your back bear at the moment and not aggravate it. Do you need a 5 kilo weight? Do you need a 2 kilo weight? Do you need a little bit more than that? This requires a little bit of careful exploration, but it always has to be done on the proviso that you've got good technique first. We can't let technique go out the window when we're doing this, otherwise we risk trouble. Level 3 actually allows us to complete the process and get the benefit of turning this activity into a purposeful exercise. This is where we might be working at 3 sets, 4 sets, or 5 sets of 10 with the desired activity to achieve the outcome, to challenge ourselves so that our body changes. Too many people completely skip this. The amount of times I've spoken to people and they've said, oh, I'm doing this exercise and I'm doing 10 reps and I'm doing it twice a day or something like that. I say, how long have you been doing that? I say, I've been doing it for the last 6 months. I said, then you haven't been doing it properly because it's not going to have changed you. If you can already do that exercise and you can do it without any real trouble, then it's not going to actually change your body because you're doing something that you can already do. And therefore, aside from the technical benefits that are real and are valuable, you want to avoid getting stuck in doing the same thing over and over again without progressing for months and months on end. Got a great example of a patient here where I was going through some goblet squats in the gym here, and he said, oh, the most I can do is 15 kilos. I can't do more than that. I'm only doing 10. And probably when I get to 12, I would really struggle. So I think I'm at the right weight. And we did it together here in the gym. And I said, okay, well, that looked okay. So your form's great, textbook perfect the whole way through. Why don't you try and do it with this 20 kilo? Because we didn't have anything between 15 and 20. And I gave it to him. He said, well, just do one at a time, right? Just one and see how it goes. He ended up getting 10 reps and got, it's been up here. And that means that for the last 3, 4, 5 months, 2, 3 months, something like that, we hadn't really been effective. We hadn't been achieving that level 3. We hadn't then made the exercise purposeful so that it was significantly improving our back health and fitness, etc. We can always get stuck in this scenario. And sometimes it's fear. We don't want to push ourselves too fast, and that's completely understandable. But do have an honest evaluation from time to time as to whether you're just getting stuck doing the same thing over and over, making this activity move away from a purposeful activity that's providing exercise benefits and move back into that pointless activity that's not really doing anything. We're going to finish up this video with making 3 exercise recommendations. These are activities, when you do them the way we just discussed, they will become exercises that will improve your back health. We know they work because they work with countless thousands of patients and members over the years. And if you use the tutorials we'll link to, then you're going to start getting some results. You're going to start seeing some improvement and measuring that progress over the days, weeks, and months ahead. Exercise number 1 is going to be the modified dead bug. Really important points here is that we are making sure that our spine is staying still through the entirety. We're not doing a pelvic tuck and flattening the back to the ground. We're just holding the spine neutral. This is teaching you how to stabilize that lumbar spine in the safest possible environment. You can do this on the bed if you absolutely have to, but if you're able to get down on the floor without causing too much trouble for your back, then do it down there. It's better. Aim for something like 10 reps, 3 to 5 sets, as we mentioned earlier, finding that level of difficulty that you can do without allowing your back to arch or flatten, losing control, and getting pain. The next exercise is the squat, and this is by far the most effective exercise one can do by virtue of the fact that it is so involved in absolutely everything we do on a daily basis. From the moment you get out of bed in the morning to the moment you sit back down in your bed to go to sleep, you will be doing squats every single day. When you're doing the squat, so many people will allow their knees to fold in because they don't have good strength in the hips. They will also allow their back to round as they go down. All of these things are signs that you just aren't competent in this movement that you're doing every single day anyway. And that's why the squat can be so powerful, even in the short term before you've actually made any strengthening improvements, in that it just protects you better and better the more competent you get at it. And then as you get stronger, you can get even more benefits going forwards for the long term. Just remember, that squat is the first movement you'll do as you get up out of the hospital bed if you've had a surgery. And it is going to be the strongest movement that people do in the performance environment, lifting hundreds of pounds in powerlifting competitions. It has application for every human being on the planet. And it is so powerful and so overlooked, because it involves your hips, your knees, your ankles, your core, your back, your balance, absolutely everything. And it's applicable, as I've said, to everything in daily life. So master this, because it's the one exercise that we see so many with back pain really struggling to do competently. I literally had a comment on one of the TikTok, I think, videos where the guy said, oh, my surgeon said I'm not allowed to do squats because it puts too much pressure on my back, or something to that effect. And of course, these, we don't want to do it with unnecessary weight, but just learning the basic squat. The surgeon will have implicitly allowed him to do a squat by getting up out of the chair at the end of their appointment as he left to go back home and squat, no doubt, to get into his car again. And this is such a misunderstood concept, and why it's so important to understand that anything is an activity, and the intent with which we approach that activity dictates whether it's going to cause us an injury if we, in a rather silly manner, just load a load of weight up and start doing squats with bad form, or if it's going to get us healthier by simply practicing a half rep, very gentle squat, maybe even with a bit of support because we're that very weak. Final exercise is the step up. And this is a very safe way for all of us to start to stabilize that ability to drive weight through one leg whilst holding the spine steady. If you live in a house, you're going to have to carry stuff upstairs. If you've got kids, you're going to have to do that with weight. And no matter how bad your back is, you're going to be doing that every day. We can either have a process of improving the skills which we do this and recruit different muscles, or we can just shy away from it and get no benefit. But you're doing this activity every day. You may as well do it with purpose again to make it an exercise. The classic mistakes that people make here again are very similar to the squat in that it's rounding the lower back, bending forwards, but also we have that left to right tilt. People will often allow their pelvis to tilt one side or the other as they don't have the necessary strength and coordination to perform this movement. But again, it can be done incredibly safely with the support, with maybe an aid to come up and in a way that doesn't challenge your legs so much and lower down in the same. And then we can progress it on from there using bands or weights, etc., to make it harder and harder as we get stronger and stronger. Again, making this activity into an exercise that's improving our back health. Ultimately, the goal with this video was to put something out there that starts to educate people, because too many people with back pain are fearful of exercise or doing exercises that it's just ineffective. They're not doing anything at all to improve their back health. And once you start to realize that actually all an exercise is an activity that has a purpose to it, you can start to realize that many of the activities you've been doing are activities of daily living and have no purpose, but have all of the disadvantages of making your back worse, yet you're doing them every day. I challenge you, if you have a small child, not to pick them up. You're going to pick them up whether or not you have a bad back, because I've seen it and I've lived it personally with our child. And there are plenty of other examples. I once had a guy who was worried about moving onto more challenging exercises with next to no load, who came in the next week and was lifting a tumble dryer because someone had to do it around the house. And there are all of these strange peculiarities that exist. And when you take a step back, you realize that actually I'm doing a bunch of activities. No wonder I'm not getting better, because I'm doing all of those with no health benefits. So hopefully you can start to realize that there are some activities which we call exercise that can actually be done to really improve your health and well-being. And you should be prioritizing those and casting a much more critical eye over the other daily activities, because 9 times out of 10, they are the source of your flare-ups. And by doing those and avoiding the good ones, we're just setting ourselves up for endless problems and feeling like there's nothing we can do to get better. So hopefully this video gave you a little bit of confidence, a little bit of encouragement. Check out those resources that we've linked to down in the description. They will help you with that strategy of how to approach these activities to make them into health improving exercises as far as it goes with your lower back or sciatica, whichever you're struggling with. And let us know in the comments if there's any questions you've got or any other clarities you'd like with regards to activities. If you did find this video helpful, consider sharing it with someone else who's struggling, and we'll see you in the next one.